have a 12% chance of making the playoffs according to ESPN's analytics. They need to win out and then get some help. This week's challenge is a visit to Miami on Sunday to face the Dolphins, who have lost 3 straight coming in.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
How are we doing tonight? Here we go.
Well, the Bucs are taking on Cleveland tonight on the road. Milwaukee won the first 2 matchups against the Cavs this year. And the Wisconsin basketball team gearing back up after some time off for finals. They will take on Grambling State on Friday night, the Kohl Center. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network
look at that.
update,
No bald spot.
I'm Zach Kyle Print.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. Look at the 8. Go. This is The Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Good evening and welcome. We are broadcasting live. We're at DJ's Goalpost. We're in Menomonee Falls. That's where you can find us. And this evening we're hanging out as waiting for the Great White Death to get here. It went from 30 inches to 17 inches to 3 to 5. I don't know. It might get a little wind. Maybe it's going to be snowy, break a fart, something like that. Who knows? But regardless, we're waiting for it to happen. As everybody's anticipating. It's funny because I got a whole group of teachers over here, and they said, they called us. We're all off tomorrow. So they came out to the show tonight. And they said, we can drink. So I guess teachers are rejoicing everywhere, the fact that they're off school tomorrow already. But anyway, that being said, the Green Bay Packers are not off. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur. Hopefully hear from Aaron Rodgers. Got Mike Clemens coming up tonight. Grant Bills, the Wisco Sports Show, is going to be joining us this evening. It's the second straight year and the 4th time in franchise history that the Packers are going to play on Christmas. It's going to be the first time the Packers are going to play on the road on the holiday, though. And the Packers have won 4 of the last 5 matchups with the Dolphins, including the last time they played, which was a 31-12 victory back in 2018. That was at Lambeau. As they say, throw the records out the window. Why? Because this team has been, for the most part, abysmal this season. Defense has been inept. The offense also inept. And now it seems like maybe there's a little bit of life. After starting off so incredibly poor, the Green Bay Packers do see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. And for the most part, if they win out, you would assume there's a couple of losses out there for the Commanders and also for the Seattle Seahawks that could ultimately put the Packers in the postseason. But as we all know, the Green Bay Packers have not played well consistently. And the last 2 teams they have beaten have sub-500 records, that being the Bears and the Rams. In the meantime, Aaron Rodgers seems to feel like the offense is getting better. He also feels like the weapons are getting better. Romeo Doubs specifically is back, and he was kind of a first down machine in the game the other night on Monday. And you also have Christian Watson, who can be a deep threat. Then you have the old reliable in Randall Cobb, the good route runner in Alan Lazard. And don't forget that the offense really kind of goes as the running back goes, and that is Aaron Jones, who is running the ball well and feels healthy. He says his ankle feels as good as it's felt in a long time. And then A.J. Dillon, who left the game on Monday night with a mild concussion-like symptom, but was the very next day cleared to play. So it looks like he's good to go, and that was good news. The offensive line has been pretty much intact. You're waiting for David Bakhtiari to return. Probably, I would say, not another week or two, or about another week or two before you're going to see him back. But who knows? Maybe maybe things work out a little bit quicker than that. But then again, with David Bakhtiari, it could very well be another month before we see him back. So we'll see. As he comes back from an appendectomy. But welcome anyway. Good to have you on board tonight. If you want to get a hold of us, 877-867-1670, 877-867-1670. You can also hit us up over on the Bud Light live stream, as many of you are watching there. You can catch us on YouTube, catch us on the Facebook fan page. You can also track us down over on Twitter at Bill_Michaels, or at Ben Z. Kenny over there as well. A couple of pieces of news to note. We're going to get into the rest of the NFL as well coming up here in a little bit. But Miami leads the regular season series between these two teams 10-5. And won the first 8 games between these two franchises But Green Bay has won 5 of the last 7 contests. The Packers 9-5 in the state of Florida in the months of December and January. They're 1-1 at Jacksonville, 0-1 at Miami, 8-3 at Tampa Bay. So they have yet to win in Miami, and they've only played one other time down at Hard Rock. So we'll see. We'll see. In quarterback Aaron Rodgers started 3 games against the Dolphins, leading the Packers to 2 wins, including an 84.5 passer rating with a TD and interception in his first game against Miami back in 2010. He's gone on the record to ratings of 99.7 and then 112.1 in the next 2 games that he's played. So playing the Dolphins, again, I can give you all the statistics. We can talk about, numerous things when it comes to this matchup between these two teams, but the big matchup in this game is not necessarily Aaron Rodgers against that Dolphins defense, but it's more so the Dolphins and their offense with Tyreek Hill and Tua and Mostert. The last time we really saw Mostert, he was running all over the Packers defense out in San Francisco in an NFC Championship game. If you remember, he racked up 240 plus yards in that ball game, as a matter of fact. And the Green Bay Packers defensively have their work cut out for them. Now, the one thing to remember is that Miami, when they lose, they lose. I mean, it's they don't have a lot of close losses. They put up points in the mid to low teens, and they give up 30. The Packers over the last 5 games have averaged 26.6 points per game, which is 6th best in the National Football League over the same period of time. They have risen from 18.3 points per game that they were averaging by week 9 of this season. So over the last 5 weeks, the offense has started to click. We did see on Monday night the defense with a lack of missed tackles, which was a good thing. And you saw them get after the quarterback. 5 sacks, as a matter of fact, on Baker, and they pressured him. Statistically speaking, and via technical from the NFL, 9 times. I had counted 11, but regardless, they got after the quarterback, and the pressure was there. So we'll see if Joe Barry is able to continue to dial a few things up, bring pressure from different area, and then also if guys can just kind of get home on their own as well. But that's really going to be the matchup between these two teams as to whether or not this Packers defense can shut down that Miami Dolphins offense. And because they, like I said, they have weapons, whether it's Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. They've got a decent tight end, Mike Gesicki. Tua, obviously, he was being talked about early on this season about could he possibly, be an MVP this year. And he started out pretty well. They lost a few games, then they started winning, then they lost a few, then they started winning, and now they're losing a few again. And like I said, Raheem Salvon Ahmed is another one. Jeff Wilson was one of their backups. Now he's been banged up. So is River Craycraft as well. And he's one of their wide receivers. He's been banged up. But this team, they go with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and Tua. And those are the ones that do the damage. You would assume that Tyreek Hill, if Joe Barry doesn't play that god-awful soft zone, you would assume that Tyreek Hill would be one-on-one with Jair. And Jair has been, talked to time and again about wanting the number one guy. So he should have his time to shine and then kind of go from there. But we'll see what it is that Joe Barry and company want to actually dial up, if anything, against this group. Michael says there certainly shouldn't be any heat issues in Miami. Yeah, the forecast for there is like right around 55 to 60, the possibility of some showers in the area. It's not going to be your typical 85-degree day with a heat index, and then the Packers bench side would be then in the sunshine the entire time. If anything, it's going to be like an October day in Miami. It could be it'll probably be a little more humid, but probably a little bit cooler. If there's a little bit of rain in the area, it could make things slick, and maybe a little more inclement weather, maybe a little more, to be honest with you, a little more Packer weather than it would be Miami weather. So we'll see. But nevertheless, the Green Bay Packers getting set to take on the Miami Dolphins. Again, we're going to talk to Mike Clemens coming up here in a little bit. We're going to hear from Matt LaFleur coming up here shortly in just a couple of moments as well, as he spoke to the media today. So we're going to bring you that coming up here in just a few. But we're at DJ's Goalpost. We're on Appleton Avenue in Menomonee Falls, and got here early. They got a big party in the back. I don't know if it's a baby shower or if it's a Christmas party. I saw a lot of kids' toys, and people were bringing in diapers. So I kind of thought maybe it was a baby shower, but whoever it is, they got a ton of friends. About 30 people in the back. This place has been packed like this. As a matter of fact, it's not packed. This is a big place. So if you, I'm going to show you a little bit around real quick, but this is a big place, and that's just a portion of it. But the bar was maybe 6 people when I got here, and now it probably has about 15, 20 people all the way around to the opposite side of the bar, and then in the back, and a ton of pool tables. I think they got about, correct me if I'm wrong, about 6 to 8 pool tables in this place. So it's a cool place, really neat. But nevertheless, in the back where the party room is, a lot of pizzas, a lot of food, and a lot of hooting and hollering going on back there. So hopefully if you come out, you can still, you can find a table, you can find some food, but holy mackerel, you're part of that party back there. They're eating well. I'll tell you that right damn now. And if it is a baby shower, whoever the mama is, that kid's eating well tonight too. Pizzas and sausage and pepperoni and everything else. This is from Anthony, who says, hey, if the Green Bay Packers do get a win, do you then become a believer? I live in the reality that is, okay? They dug themselves a hole, an ugly hole. Can they win out? I think the likelihood of it is almost nil, but we've seen it happen before when they weren't supposed to win out, and it did, and they did. I'm not going to go with the relax, and I'm not going to go with the run the table, and I'm not going to do the comparisons to 2010 because those teams aren't walking through the door. But could the Green Bay Packers get a win in Miami? Certainly they could. And if Tua doesn't have a good game, the Packers don't turn the football over, you take advantage of a couple of turnovers, you get up early, you allow the defense to kind of pin their ears back, much like we saw on Monday night. Certainly this team could end up maybe getting a win in Miami. I think that would make a lot of believers out of a lot of people. Then they would have to turn around and get a win over the Vikings. Not an easy task, but could they? Sure they could. The next question is, because most of the people, when you look at the percentages in Vegas, say, well, if the Packers get the next 2 wins, then their percentage to win against the Detroit Lions goes up to, I think it's like 58% or 63%, something like that. The Lions are one of the hotter teams in football right now. The Lions have kind of figured it out, and they're feeling it. I mean, they got to the man's man and Dan Campbell, who was inspiring, who was chanting, who was high-fiving, who was just all over it enthusiastic-wise with this Detroit Lions team. And they're doing a lot of what we thought they would be doing at the beginning of the season. Meanwhile, it's like in Green Bay right now, they have pep in their step, but they're not sure if they should believe or not. I know Aaron Rodgers says, hey, it's starting to feel different, but it's like they're not sure if they should start believing in what they can do. Like I said the other night on Monday, I thought, in that game, had they not given up that 6-play, 55-yard drive late in the ball game to allow an additional 6 on the board for the Rams, if that defense would have put that emphatic stamp on Baker Mayfield. Don't get me wrong, they only gave up 12 points. That's a hell of a night at the office if you're a defender. But you really wanted to see that emphatic stamp to say, nah, not going to do it, not going to give it up, not on us. We're going to become the defense that many people think we should be. And they didn't do that. So I got my trepidation a little bit as to whether or not the Packers are going to be able to really pull this one off in Miami. But, you and I, we woke up today and we had some hope, right? Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear from Matt LaFleur a little bit earlier today, catch up on what he had to say. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, going to get back at it. We got Grant Bills today. We got Mike Clemens today. We're going to have a good time. DJ's Goalpost out here in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Avenue. Stop in and say hi. Stay tuned. We got a lot more of the Bill Michaels Show, and it's brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back right after this.
Let we go. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
You got to keep the focus right in front of you. Certainly, if you look at the totality of it, all 3 teams are really good football teams. And so I don't want to get too far in front of ourselves and just want to be the best that we can be each and every day, each and every game. And that starts with Miami.
I do. Yeah, I do. Now we're going to play 3 better football teams, but I do, definitely.
Can you win out? Rodgers, do you believe it? I do. That's what he had to say. And Aaron Rodgers talking about the possibility of this team winning the rest of the way. 3 left on the docket. You've got Miami, you've got Minnesota, and you've got Detroit. Welcome back to the program. It's the Bill Michaels Huddle. It's brought to you by our friends at Bud Light. They're the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. And we are at DJ's Goalpost. We're out here in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Avenue. That's where you can find this terrific place, great food, and just a good group of people that are in here as well. Saw some, like I was telling you earlier, we saw some teachers and stuff, and they're pretty excited that they already have had school called off tomorrow, so came out tonight to enjoy themselves. Come on by and say hi. Still plenty of room if you want to come out. Matt LaFleur meeting with the media just a little bit earlier this afternoon. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
To take the organization to the next level. You can see where they're building up on defense, but they made some free agency moves. What do you think?
Yeah, I think they hired some really good coaches, and I think they acquired some really good talent. And you can see certainly they added a lot of speed to their roster. It always helps, certainly when Tua's playing the way he is. He's had a heck of a year so far, and I got a lot of respect for what they've been able to accomplish in a short amount of time.
When you look at their film and put together your game plan, they've given up a lot of points in a road and hardly any at home. I guess how do you juggle that?
Try to come up with the best plan as possible, and it really is going to come down to our ability. Obviously, they've got a lot of great players. They got some guys up front that can certainly wreck a game. They got guys in the back end that can cover, and they do a good job of complementing one another on the defense side of the ball. And so we're going to have a great game plan. It's going to come down, like it always does, to how well you execute.
When Tyreek left Kansas City, a lot of people scoffed at the notion he could have an even better statistical season than he's having one right now. What have you seen from him on tape as he's transitioned from working with Patrick Mahomes to a totally new team?
See a guy that's really fast, and he's made some unbelievable plays. They do a really good job of putting him at the point of attack, certainly there's other weapons on the field. Jalen Waddle, he's pretty fast and pretty good too. Jaceki, I mean, they got a lot of guys. The backs are running really well. Like I said, Tua's doing a heck of a job anticipating a lot of throws and allowing his playmakers to go make plays. And that's what they do. They do a good job of getting the ball out of his hand quickly and let those guys do the rest. So it's going to be a great challenge for us, just in terms of being able to limit those explosive plays and really slow down the offense, because you can see they can score in a hurry and shoot, whether it's on a quick pass, whether it's on a play pass, whether it's on a run, whether it's on somebody fumbling the ball and, the ball squirting out of the pile and him picking it up and taking it to the house. And they can score a lot of different ways.
Matt, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about actually getting Keyshawn involved on offense?
You're just going to have to wait and see, Matt. They're going to leave you on the edge of your seat here this week.
He's serious though, right?
I think so.
Yeah, I know you were asked about it yesterday, but there's a production meeting that they talked about on Monday night with the offensive meetings, and then it became, at least among some people nationally, thinking that the quarterbacks and receivers just haven't been meeting.
Yeah,
that's not true. I mean, they've been meeting all along. Right?
Yeah, I think I probably did not articulate that story very well, because we meet every day together. All our installs are together. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday installs are all together. We always meet post-practice on Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday morning. And then the only meeting we didn't do early in the year was a post-practice Wednesday meeting. That was the only one. So we added that to all the other meetings that we do meet together. So it was one probably 40-minute meeting. But like I said, the main point is the more time you are with somebody or you spend together, the more you kind of get to know them. And I think that just helped us kind of expedite just everybody, learning one another. But it's kind of gotten, I think, a little bit overblown.
Quarterbacks have been meeting, right? The whole time, right? I think Aaron said one day we even moved it up a day earlier.
Yeah. 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 So.
Was that just time scheduling conflict? Why that?
No, I think what had happened was in year one, every meeting was together. And then we have had a lot of experience, and we kind of and I trust our other coaches to articulate. We're all, as a coaching staff, we're all on the same page. So allow them to go into the room to really dig at the details, because whether it's me or whoever up there in front of the room talking, you just want to make sure all the details are getting addressed, that every little thing within the position group. And obviously, the more people you have in there, the more big picture, I would say, it gets. And not to say that you don't harp on some of the mistakes or some of the little details or highlight the things that guys are doing well. It's just, I think it's a little bit easier to communicate when it's just one position in there together to get all the little details down. But I felt like just making sure that everybody hears it from Aaron's voice, because I don't care whether it's here or another building. It's important for whether it's the receivers, the tight ends, whoever, to hear how the quarterback sees it. He's got the ball in his hand on every play. And I remember Mike Vrabel, when I was in Tennessee, used to tell me all the time. He's like, Matt, they're not going to listen to you. They're going to listen to the quarterback. So it's just kind of how it works.
That's super fun when the internet gets a hold of something and inaccurately depicts it.
That tends to happen a lot, I think.
That's awesome.
Who's that? Who are we talking about?
Nope, I'm not allowed to comment on other media by ESPN.
Okay.
You might be an NFC North fan.
You're a little riled up today, Rob. I don't think I've ever seen you like this. I like it. Feisty.
I did have a question. When I know it's player by player, but as a coach, what are usually your expectations for your rookie class? I mean, Ted used to talk about it, and I think Brian has as well, that, we're going to be kind of defined by our veteran players and we'll hope for rookie contributions. Where are you kind of at when you expect something from a group like that?
Well, I try to go into it with a pretty much open mind and just kind of let it play out. But certainly there's some rookies that you expect immediate impact from. And it just is, I would say it's circumstantial, just in terms of what you think you're going to get out of somebody. But it's our job as coaches to push them to be their best and try to acclimate them as quickly as possible to help, to allow them to contribute to the success of our team. So, I think every position, I'd say the learning curve could be a little bit different for every position. I think we've seen it over the history of ball. There's some positions that it takes a little bit longer. If you're looking at the wide receivers, that's usually one of them. Defensive line, the pass rushers is usually one. Quarterbacks obviously can be one. But I think everything's a little bit different. I think it's easier for certain other positions, whether it's a running back, maybe a corner, DB, whatever it may be, to get in there and contribute at a high level earlier.
I know it's only one game, but where do you kind of look at your rookie class? You had Christian and Romeo with big contributions. Zach started at left tackle. Quay had a big game. Devontae had a half a sack. Are you starting to see that group really start to take off and contribute?
Yeah, I think all those guys are doing a great job. And, like I said, it's our job to try to put them in a position and continue to push them. But you're talking about a bunch of guys that love ball, and that makes it a lot easier because, they're investing the time and the energy that it takes to be the best they can be. And, we're at a part of the season now where you always tell them, and I know it's cliche, but you're no longer a rookie. I mean, you gotta kind of, it's more of a mentality in that regard.
This might be obvious, man, but how much has Quay been able to improve on his instincts or reaction with Devontae back in?
Well, I think that helps a little bit, just the continuity, the communication between those two guys. But, he had a little bit more put on his plate, I would say, when Dre was out in terms of communicating all the calls. I think, when he's next to a guy like KB, who's also played a lot of football, it makes it a little bit easier. But there's been times when he's the only linebacker in the game. So, I think he's gotten better each and every week, just more familiar and seeing kind of the same, whether it's concepts, run game, pass game, and being able to adapt and adjust and react a little bit quicker.
Do you think, or how would you describe Mike McDaniel's personality? And do you think coaches, or do you think teams take on the personality of their coach sometimes?
Yeah, I'd say, you guys have watched Mike's press conferences, right? So he's a pretty entertaining guy. He's very quick-witted, and but he's a really good person that cares a lot about people, cares a lot about the game and the job, and he does a great job. He's super thorough, very intelligent, and I've got as much respect for him as anybody, just in terms of how he handles his business and the position and his football mind. He's a super creative guy. I think you can see that in terms of some of the stuff they put on tape this year. And obviously he goes to great lengths to try to help his players as much as possible. I know we all heard that story about that tape he put together for Tua. I think that's pretty remarkable. And I think that's, he's doing whatever it takes to help guys be their best.
There you go. That was Matt LaFleur from a little bit earlier today. Not that long ago, as a matter of fact. He spoke this afternoon just because they backed up some practice because of the short work week. That was the reason they did what they did, because Monday night, obviously, they played Tuesday. They came in, started cramming, going over the film from Monday night, started getting ready for the practice today, and obviously getting ready for Miami. So there you have it. Let's do this. When we come back, Mike Clemens is going to be joining us in Green Bay. We'll talk with Mike about the short turnaround, the Packers getting ready for a Christmas Day game in Miami. Stay tuned. We are broadcasting live at DJ's Goalpost. We're out here in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Avenue. If you want to swing by and say hi, stop in. Obviously, you can see there's still some tables, plenty of room. Come on out. We'll be here until 8 o'clock tonight, bringing you the Bill Michaels Huddle, brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. We'll be back after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume 30 seconds.
Yeah, I think they hired some really good coaches, and I think they acquired some really good talent. And you can see, certainly they add a lot of speed to the roster. It always helps, certainly when Tua's playing the way he is. He's had a heck of a year so far, and, you know, I got a lot of respect for what they've been able to accomplish in a short amount of time.
Mike Clemens joining us as we hear Matt LaFleur talking about Tua and company. We're broadcasting live, the Bill Michaels Huddle. We're live out here at DJ's Goalpost. They got a party going on in the back, man. They're hooting and hollering back there. I don't know what kind of party it is, but I know when I get off the air, I hope they're still around. But in the meantime, we got Mike Clemens joining us. And Michael, first of all, thanks, man. Thanks for joining us on a Wednesday night as always.
You bet. It sounds like you're having, you guys are having fun down there. 5 minutes ago, I just got done talking to Aaron Rodgers with about 5 or 6 reporters left. We waited. You know, there was this thing that came up during the broadcast on Monday Night Football where Troy Aikman said, yeah, you know, apparently, the players didn't really have these meetings with the coaches where they went over some of the film of the practice, and they just started doing that. I mean, I can't imagine anybody doing that. And so today, Matt LaFleur said, okay, that came from me in the production meeting, and maybe I didn't explain it clearly. He says, we have like 8 different meetings where coaches and players are together, and they're going over film. Either it's game film, maybe it's practice film, maybe it's of the opponent. And we decided that, you know, during the 5-game losing streak, you know, we're missing things on Wednesdays, or we're not getting things installed cleanly, fast enough, particularly with some of these later players. So somebody suggested it. Might have been Rodgers. I mean, Rodgers has done this in the past. He did it with Mike McCarthy. He said, how about right after Wednesday, we go right over the tape then? So we make those corrections right away so that it's cleaner on Thursday and 100% better on Friday before we run it on Sunday. So for us, they have this practice, and then they open up the locker room, and it's empty. And we've been standing around there sometimes 45 minutes, and then all of a sudden you start to see special teams trickle in, and then defensive guys come in, and then all of a sudden, about an hour and a half later, you see Jordan Love walking in, and you say, okay, get ready, here come the quarterbacks. And then in comes Aaron Rodgers. So here's Aaron Rodgers talking to the media till about 6:30 tonight, and that's just a change. But the Packers, and frankly some of the media here, they're pretty ticked off about stories that they've been sort of twisted. Like Pro Football Talk took that story from Aikman and just really ripped the Packers, and it was really inaccurate. And the guys who cover the team every day, they think that makes them look bad. Like, well, how come you guys didn't have that story? Same thing with the Aaron Rodgers story about, you know, signals and how they're taught to players and that kind of thing. So there's some folks out there that are looking for clickbait that, you know, the guys that actually cover the team say that's wrong and stop making us look bad. And, you know, people are angry when nothing else better to do than to complain on Twitter. You there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm here. One of the guys, I'm sorry about that. One of the guys that, I was thinking we were going to hear from Aaron Rodgers real quick, but Aaron Rodgers, one of the guys that I believe it was yesterday on the McAfee show, and we talked a little bit about it, where he had gotten that story about the hand signals and all that kind of stuff. And then it seemed like there was this thought that this was some kind of an attack piece. And when McAfee went back and read it today on the air, it really wasn't. It was a bunch of guys on the record just basically explaining it's difficult sometimes. Rodgers, wants things done a certain way. It talks about the hand signals and all the different things that he goes through. It was just kind of an insight. So I get it that there's some stories that, Mike, that are out there that seem like they're attacking. There's other stories that, kind of are factual that some people take offense. I don't have the Packers. And I don't mean the Packers overall. I mean everybody in that locker room or maybe management. But is there a thin skin there, Mike?
Sure there is. But usually it's a skin because they're very, very guarded about their security and about sharing information. And that's the point that Rogers made yesterday. And I'm not here, by the way, to defend the organization. I'm just trying to get to what I think is probably the truth. And I believe the truth of the matter is what Rogers actually said about this. He goes, okay, who are the sources that we're talking about? People that are actually quoted are Amari Rogers and Kylan Hill. Well, Kylan Hill got flat out cut after coming back from an ACL and doing the rehab and standing there on the sidelines. LaFleur all but made it clear this guy's head was not where it needed to be. He was not game ready. And, yeah, it's a shame that he, blew out the ACL. And he did a nice job with some of those returns, but he's not mentally ready. So the point is, if these guys are saying, well, gee, we got these walkthroughs on Saturdays, and he's nodding and twitching and touching his shoulders and stuff, and I don't even know what that means. And Aaron Rodgers says, yeah, you know why? Because you're not going to touch the field. And the coaches don't want that information to be given to you because you're not going to be around here very much longer.
Right. I will say this, and this is where I have to I pause for a minute, is because we heard it from Greg Jennings. We heard it from Jermichael Finley. We heard a little bit from Donald Driver, and then he walked it back some years later, both about Aaron and about Brett. We've heard it from guys that have left there, and it's always, well, they're disgruntled, they're not here, we don't like them, they're mad at us. But nobody inside that locker room is ever going to say anything in any kind of derogatory light. One story gets out, that's one thing. 4, 5, 6, 7, it starts to become a little bit where there's smoke, there's fire. Look, I think Rodgers is the ultimate competitor and one of the best quarterbacks ever. I just think that there's a lot of bigger fish to kind of fry right now than what it is about, hand signal meetings on a Saturday. You know what I mean?
Well, but this gets back to who Aaron Rodgers is. He plays at a 5-story level of chess. It's not just one chessboard. There's 5 or 6 different chessboards. He's playing 5 or 6 chess games at the same time. He's got 30 different signals. He just thinks that this is every little edge that he needs to play his level of game. What he doesn't realize is, he has to, frankly, play down to the IQs of fellow football players. And so just like when Alan Lazard is standing there wide open and you throw the ball over his head because he didn't remember that if you're wide open, you're supposed to move downfield and I'll lead you. Well, Randall Cobb did the same thing. So, it comes down to that. So part of this is who Aaron Rodgers, in fact, is. He gets very complicated about things, and he tries to be a nice guy, but he's thin-skinned when there's anything that gets out of the barn that, he didn't tell me and all that. Well, he tries to be a nice guy, but in fact, he makes it pretty complicated to be around. So here's another one. Bill. I just asked him about this. He was going on some talk about, where the Packers are, how they're doing in games, what it takes to win a game. And he said, and then momentum is a factor. And, football is an emotional game. And when you get a momentum swing, when you get a big play, when you get a Keyshawn Nixon 52-yard kick return and the sideline goes nuts, that changes your team. That sparks the whole team. That invigorates the team. And physically and mentally, those players are now going to hit the field and they want to follow up. That's complementary football. And so he said in the discussion, he goes, but, you debate with some others in the organization that don't believe in momentum, that there is such a thing. And I was like, what is he talking? I mean, could Brian Gutekunst say that, or LaFleur, or how can you be any part of football and think that momentum doesn't make a difference?
Right.
And so I asked him, I said, are you having an ongoing debate about this? Here's what he said.
Momentum for sure. There's one specific guy who I love who's thankfully in our room this year. And every time I mention momentum, he tries to tell me that he never said that momentum wasn't real. But I like to remember it that way. And Connor Lewis, did I mention his name?
Oops.
He's one of my favorite guys in the organization and done a great job for us over the years, working mostly on analytics for a long time. Those analytics computer guys, they believe in what they call scientific concrete data. But there's a feel out there when the energy's moving, you can feel the momentum turn. And I think he's come around a little bit because every time I say that he doesn't believe momentum, he tells me that's not what he actually said.
Interesting. And he's right because, you deal with it all the time with analytics guys. There's something that's tangible. They can see a statistic related to something specific. Momentum, emotion, home field advantage, energy, stuff like that. There is something that is there to that, but you can't quantify it. And it drives guys that are analytic driven. It drives them nuts, Mike.
And listeners, I want you to pay attention. Remember that name, Connor Lewis, because this is a guy that was hired as an assistant a couple of years ago. I don't know if he wants to get into coaching or remain an analytics guy, but I've found out from actually LaFleur that when LaFleur is on the sidelines, he's not talking to Adam Stenovich, who's actually downstairs, or one of his other assistants, or Tom, Clements or anybody like that. The guy who is up in the box and looking at defenses and watching the clock and watching the replays and saying challenge or explaining a rule and anticipating the refs are going to call it this way, who knows the rule book inside and out, is Connor Lewis. That's the guy who's in Matt LaFleur's ear as helping with the game management spot in game. That's an interesting quality to have, a great quality to have if you're a coordinator someday.
Mike, I want to go to what kind of like the here and the now real quick, and that is the season itself that's been somewhat, I don't want to say saved, but, they are averaging 26.6 points a game in the last 5 games. Offensively, things have begun to turn around for them. Special teams are getting better. The defense this past Monday night played a little better. What has been, I don't want to say a turnaround because the team's not anywhere near where it should be, but what has been better with this team?
Finding ways to win eventually. They made plenty of mistakes again Monday night. And, defensively, I went back and you realize that there's a lot of these games, win or lose, they're still giving up 300, 400 yards total offense.
Mm-hmm.
Like even games that they're close in, like the Bills. Now, the Bills scored early on them, but there's a lot of these other games where the Packers are maybe behind by a score or two, and then maybe eventually they win it, but they still give up so much yardage. That changed dramatically on Monday night with a banged-up Rams team when the Packers, Green Bay had, 37 minutes of possession. So we asked Rodgers that. I mean, what do you feel, was your turnaround point where it looked like the wheels were totally coming off, that maybe now here you actually have a shot at making the postseason?
I think the win against Cowboys was really important for us. We lost 5 in a row, and many of them not very pretty. So that was kind of our first last stand. And that kind of reminded us we actually can win football games. Now we lost in the next 2, obviously, but winning changes everything. Winning does a lot of great things. It can also gloss over a lot of things. When you're winning for so long, it can be a cure-all, kind of superficially, but sometimes it can mask some of the things that we need to kind of tidy up. I think there was opportunities this year for us in the humility of losing multiple games where we got to finally clean some things up that need to be cleaned up. And we've obviously played a little bit better the last 2 weeks against bad teams. Now we got to play good against 3 good teams.
Mike, before I let you go, so is the energy there? Rodgers talked about energy, things turning around, different feeling in the building. Do you feel it?
Yeah, I think they want to go down there. They love that forecast of Miami, like you talked about the other day. It's, in the 60s. We just had a great conversation with Keyshawn Nixon. I think the story you're going to see in tomorrow morning's papers is a detailed interview that we had with Keyshawn about his returner and how patiently he waited week after week after week while we watched Amari Rodgers muff punt after punt, and now how he's taken on the role as the kick returner. That guy alone has been a spark that's added to the turnaround. And he was limited today. He's dealing with a little bit of a groin injury. Otherwise, it looks like today's practice looked about like we expected. Elton Jenkins arrested the knee and everything, but and A.J. Dillon's out of the concussion protocol. So it looks like and Aaron Jones has got a knee injury. It looks like they got out of the game Monday night. So they'll be healthy against a very good. This is an underrated Dolphins team, man. They've got a lot of weapons. Raheem Mostert, the 49ers back, is now with them now, and he's still running strong. And a lot of praise for Mike McDaniel as a new head coach and how he's turned around the Dolphins organization.
Good stuff, Mike. Appreciate it as always, pal. And we'll talk again on Friday, okay?
Yeah, a whole preview for you from both teams because this is going to be a real interesting game on Christmas Day.
There you go. Good stuff. Mike, appreciate it, pal. Mike Clemens joining us up in Green Bay, and some more stuff to come. We got Grant Bills coming up after the top of the hour. The Wisco Sports Show going to talk about the rest of the NFL in about 45 minutes from now. Stay tuned. We're broadcasting live. We're here at DJ's Goalpost. We're in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Avenue. Snow really hasn't, from what I can tell, hasn't really started coming down too much yet. A little bit of blowing around, but that's about the extent of it. Come on out and say hi. Still plenty of room, and they got a good party going on in the back. So, a lot of Bud Light flowing back there. We are brought to you by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Stay tuned. We got more coming up after this.
This is The Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Completing hour number 1. We are broadcasting live. We're at DJ's Goalpost. We're here in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Avenue, and a good crowd here tonight. They got a bit of a party in the back. And what you're seeing on the Bud Light live stream right now is maybe a tenth of this place. just because I don't have enough cameras to cover it all. It's huge. It's huge in here. But got a good party going on in the back. Bud Light specials going on all over the place. They're giving away Bud Light tchotchkes here tonight as well. T-shirts, hats, koozies, I don't know, Christmas gifts for people that are on your Bud Light team, I guess, might be the best way to put it. But that being said, come on out and say hello and just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas that does come out here tonight. We saw some school teachers out here a little bit earlier. There was Mark, there was Marissa, Rick had swung by. Also want to say hi to the gang that walked over here a little while ago. And there was Dave, there was Bob. Bob Higby had stopped by, and I wrote it down. It's Pat. Pat was the other one that came over to say hi. So thanks to everybody for coming out and hanging out as being part of the program. And again, we're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Real quick, I want to go back to, and Ben was telling me this, instant messenger during the interview with Mike Clements, but I know that there was some, the discussion about the article in The Athletic, and they get a little upset about this, and they talk about people that aren't here anymore, Kylan Hill and Amari Rogers. Well, actually, there was Kylan Hill, Amari Rogers, Jordan Love, Randall Cobb, Romeo Dobbs, Sammy Watkins, Chris Blair, Equinemius St. Brown, Jay Sternberger, and Robert Tanyan, all quoted in the article. Nobody was hiding anything. It wasn't a rip piece on Rogers, and it wasn't bad grapes or anything like that from somebody that left. It was just a piece on what it's like to be inside the walls of 1265 as Aaron Rodgers is trying to get everybody on the same page. That's it. So that's why I asked Mike. I said, look, is there this, is like anything written now, is it automatically considered a rip piece? And is it a rip piece until you actually read the article and then go, this really isn't what people are saying it is, So it's like almost thin skin. It's like anything that's stated now is there's some kind of an attack, and there's not, or maybe you're looking for it in some way, shape, or form. I thought, to me, it was more of a piece of self-help. Saying that there's a lot of guys in that locker room. You got to get everybody on the same page, and it's not easy. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, maybe, you got to, as he stated earlier this year, simplify things. You got to come down to people's level to raise them up. You don't just expect them to be on your level. So there's things there that are a little bit difficult. But I didn't think it was a bad piece by any stretch of the imagination. So interesting perspective. Let's do this. 1 hour yet to go. Grant Bills of the Wisco Sports Show. He's going to be joining us when we come back. Stay tuned. Got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back right after this.
This is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the first national signing period opened today, and Wisconsin has inked 14 players so far. It includes one of the later additions, four-star cornerback Amari Snowden out of Michigan, just the second four-star cornerback to commit to the Badgers in the last 20 years. Overall, the class hails from 11 different states and includes 3 four-star players. New coach Luke Fickell accounted for bringing in 5 of the players, including 3 that have been committed to him in Cincinnati.
I think it's a very diverse class. If you look at it, probably a little bit more from all over the place than I would envision in us moving forward. But I think more than anything, that just shows you how strong the brand is and how strong the W is across the country.
Fickell expects to target offensive line, defensive line, and potentially wide receiver leading into the second national signing day at the beginning of February. As for the current team, they're going to make their way to Phoenix on Saturday. It's where they're going to take on Oklahoma State in the Guaranteed Rate Bowl next Tuesday. Turning to the Packers, they have a 12% chance of making the playoffs according to ESPN's analytics. They need to win out and then get some help. This week's challenge is a visit to Miami on Sunday to face the Dolphins, who have lost 3 straight coming in.
Want to save even more at Fleet Farm? Well, now you can with Fleet Rewards. It's free to sign up, and there's no credit card required. Using Fleet Rewards is easy. Earn points every time you shop. Plus, get exclusive member offers, birthday and anniversary perks, free tire rotations, and more. Download the Fleet Farm app or create an account at fleetfarm.com/rewards to start earning points today. Fleet Farm, proudly serving the Midwest since 1955.
Well, the Bucks are taking on Cleveland tonight on the road. Milwaukee won the first two matchups against the Cavs this year. And the Wisconsin basketball team gearing back up after some time off for finals. They will take on Grambling State on Friday night, the Kohl Center. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, print.
Are you ready for some football? He talks green and gold. This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels.
Welcome back. We are live. We're at DJ's Goalpost. We are in Menomonee Falls, which is where you can find us. We're on Appleton Avenue. And I want to say thanks to everybody that came out, hung out with us tonight. Also to the party going on in the back. And we certainly appreciate everybody kind of braving what is the beginning of the elements as the winter storm is supposed to come rolling through here late tonight, into tomorrow, all the way through Saturday morning. So thanks for coming out and hanging out with us. And for everybody that's been told you're not going to work tomorrow that came out tonight, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourself. Let's do this. Let's go to our buddy Grant Bills of the Wisco Sports Show. At Wisco Grant over there on Twitter is where you can get his stuff. Grant, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, Bill. Did I miss a company-wide email? Do we have tomorrow off? Because if that's the case, I'm going to the bar right now.
Right?
I'm posting up tonight. I love drinking during a snowstorm. So,
yeah, I don't mind it at all. It's a glass of bourbon or maybe a good beer and then a cigar downstairs, whatever sports happen to be on the tube, and kicking back and relaxing, and that's the way you prepare for Christmas as well. So that's not a bad way to go. Hey, so let me start first and foremost with you. Give me your thoughts, anticipation, optimism, such, going into this contest come Sunday, Christmas Day.
Well, I realized today that this has the potential to be like maybe one of the only good NFL games this weekend. Go look at the slate. All of these games, and I think you guys picked the games later in the show. This is kind of a crummy weekend. It's a lot of Falcons and the Saints and the Rams and the Broncos. Like, Packers-Dolphins might be one of the few bright spots if this is a good game. So I'm excited for it for that reason. The Dolphins are a fun team, so I'm excited. I'm really worried at what Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle might do to Joe Barry's defense. That seems like that there's some danger potential there. And Raheem Mostert, our old friend, who ran for over 200 yards on us in the NFC Championship game a couple of years ago, he's there too. So I'm excited because I think this could be a good game with two entertaining teams. I'm scared of what Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle might do to Joe Barry and Raheem Mostert. I feel like there's meltdown potential on the defensive side of the ball, and that scares me because that's embarrassing. And that happening on national TV on Christmas Day it would be an embarrassment for Packers fans. It would be an embarrassment for Jesus. It would just be all bad all around. So I'd like to avoid that, but I'm scared.
I wanted to ask you about this offense, and I had noted it today, 26.6 points per game over the last 5 games. Is this offense operating good enough to win the next 3 and get themselves into the postseason?
I mean, if they are, it will be their best stretch of the year, right? Because we've seen good games from this offense before, Bill. They've had good performances this year. They haven't been able to do it consistently, and they especially haven't been able to do it consistently against good teams. So if they can put up a solid offensive performance, and if the offense can lead the way against Miami and against Minnesota, and then I guess Detroit is Detroit, who knows what the season might look like in Week 18 when that game is at Lambeau. But if the Packers put up a good offensive performance both this week and next, it'll be their best stretch of the year. And I'm not saying they're not capable of it, right? Their best stretch has to come sometime, and maybe you haven't seen their best stretch yet. It helps to have Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs healthy. Hopefully that duo only continues to get better, and hopefully they only continue to grow together. A.J. Dillon is already out of the concussion protocol. That was short-lived, which is good. And I think this offensive line, as I talked about Monday or Tuesday, Bill, I think this Packers offensive line has settled into their reality a little bit. I think early on in this season, they were always wondering, well, is Bakhtiari going to play? Is Elton Jenkins going to – what's the situation? It's always in limbo, right? And I think this offensive line room, and maybe this would be a good question for a beat reporter. I would be interested to hear these guys' perspective and the offensive line. Maybe Stenovich could speak to this. I feel like at some point this year, the offensive line room just decided, we're just going to assume we're playing every week. We're always going to assume Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins are out, and we're going to operate under that assumption. And I think that's what they've done, and they've looked better as a result. So I think all the pieces are there. All the signs point to maybe this Packers offense playing their best ball down the stretch, but we haven't seen it yet. I can hope, right? I can look at the tea leaves, but we'll have to wait and see.
The defense, while it did play better on Monday night, it wasn't necessarily playing a juggernaut by any stretch of the imagination. So that being said, does this defense look good enough to at least come close to getting you there?
Well, they have some nice pieces, right? We've realized that Quay Walker can be a player. I think Joe Barry needs to use him correctly and not ask too much of him, and we saw that on Monday night. I think Devontae Wyatt can be a nice rotational piece, and Enigbare in Rashawn Gary's absence has been pretty nice still. So those are some positives. Rudy Ford is much better than Darnell Savage, as we learned on Monday. Darnell Savage barely played. So again, like with the offense, the pieces are there, right? And it could happen the next couple of weeks. Here's my kind of gauge for success this weekend, Bill. Can we avoid Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle running wide open, uncovered through the secondary? If we can avoid that, that's a win. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are really good. They're going to make plays, but let's make them make plays where they go and get the ball or they run away from someone. Not, oh, we forgot Tyreek Hill is there and there's no one within 10 yards of him. Can we avoid that? Can we avoid a jailbreak? And the same with Raheem Mostert. He's a good running back, and the Packers are terrible at defending the run as always. So he's probably going to make some plays. Can we avoid giving up 10 yards to carry? If Joe Barry's defense can simply not be a jailbreak defense and land a couple of pops and get to two a couple of times, I think they got a good chance this weekend. But if it looks like it did against the Eagles, where it's 10 yards to carry, or what it looked like against Justin Jefferson in week 1, if Waddle and Tyreek Hill do that, then no, I don't think there's a chance. But I'm hoping that they can be a little bit better than that.
I know Matt LaFleur had talked a little bit about it. He talked about, Keyshawn and what he's done, Keyshawn Nixon and what he's done in the return game. And, when they talked about, well, he came on and, I don't know. And my whole thought was, what do you mean you don't know? How did you not know this guy? I mean, I put it this way. It didn't leave a lot of confidence for my thought as a head coach being good enough to spot talent. He just kept saying, I don't know, he just turned it. How do you not know this guy with this ability is on your team? And instead you run out there a guy consistently who's muffing punts and making mistakes.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Bill. Okay, I think you made a good point. It's not like the guy who was returning previously was any good. Right, it would be one thing if you had Keyshawn Nixon buried behind prime Percy Harvin. Oh, shoot, we didn't know we had another great returner on the bench. How are we supposed to know? Okay, that's understandable. But every week, Bill, they ran Amari Rodgers out there, and they never considered maybe Nixon could do it. They never talked about it. Like, from week 3 on, Matt LaFleur, if I'm Matt LaFleur, I'm hounding Rich Bisaccia every week. I'm saying, look, I know you want to keep running Amari Rodgers out there. I know you believe in him. Okay, who else can we try? Because at some point, if this keeps going the way that it is, we're going to have to switch, right? It's not like they returner. They should have been looking for any reason to try anyone else at kick returner. I think they just got lucky and tried Nixon first. I think that's what happened. So I'm with you. Matt LaFleur has really, he struggles with his first choice. His first choice is usually the wrong choice. And I give Matt LaFleur credit. He owns up to making mistakes and he corrects those mistakes. But sometimes, Bill, your first choice needs to be the right choice. I'm all about learning by making mistakes and getting better. Sometimes we just need to be right the first time around. They had the wrong kick returner. I think they were starting the wrong offensive lineman from game 1, and it took them too long to come around. I think that was an issue. All of a sudden on Monday night, we're okay with giving A.J. Dillon the ball on 4th and short. That was a nice revelation. Right. I would like to see that weeks ago. So there's all of these examples, Bill, of, things that the Packers and Matt LaFleur have figured out, but it took way too long. And maybe if they would have tried some of these things or these lineup adjustments earlier, the Packers wouldn't be 6-8. Maybe they could have found another win or two and they'd be in the playoffs, albeit on the edge, rather than be the 10th seed right now.
I want to ask you about the offensive line. I want to go back to that. Zach Tom, is he making it easier for you to say, well, if they have to get rid of David Bakhtiari, they can, or have we not seen enough out of Zach Tom yet to say whether or not that $6 million savings would be worth it switching over to him?
Well, here's the thing, Bill. I want a left tackle that's going to play. And it's nothing personal against David Bakhtiari. I understand he's got a tough injury. He got his appendix out. Okay. I don't need an amazing left tackle, but I need one who I can build my offensive line around, because I think the in and out and the willy woney and the uncertainty about Bakhtiari's availability, it affected everyone in that O-line because we didn't know week to week what the line was going to look like. And there were other players and their positioning on that line that had their position contingent on Bakhtiari. I can't have that uncertainty. So Zach Tom, he might be good, he might be great, he might be poor, but you know what? If he's out there every week, that's a step up from what we had this year. I think it's also worth mentioning, Zach Tom has looked good. Josh Nijman has looked good. The offensive line has looked good the last 2 weeks. They've played the Bears, who have no one up front. They've traded away all their pass rushers. And they played a Rams team without Aaron Donald, right? So I agree they've looked good, and I'm all about Zach Tom because he's out there. I need a left tackle that I can count on every week, but I'm not willing to crown any of these guys great players based on the last 2 weeks because the opponent hasn't been anything special.
Talking with Grant Bills of the Wisco Sports Show. At Wisco Grant is where you can find him. You talked about the play calling and running A.J. Dillon. It seems like the run game has become more prevalent, like they are now relying upon it more. One of the things that I've been talking about for a while, and what we saw in the game the other night was a little more play action as well. I know we can always say, well, it's too little too late, because obviously they haven't won anything and they're still chasing the ability just to get themselves into the postseason. But I keep asking myself, why did all of this take so long? What was preventing Matt LaFleur or Rodgers or whomever was calling plays or doing thing offensive? Why did they just wait so long for this thing to start to unfold, I guess?
That's what I'm talking about with Matt LaFleur. Is we got to take 2 or 3 wrong steps before we can take the right one with this guy. And again, it's a good thing to make mistakes. It's a good thing to learn from mistakes, but every once in a while you got it the first time around. And that has been a problem for the Packers staff so far this year. Look, I also, as the offense has looked better the last couple of weeks, Christian Watson's also been healthy. And a guy with that speed and that size, a guy who's that much of a threat, does help everyone else out. I know he's just a rookie. I know he's really green, but his gravity in the run game and his gravity for other players is huge. So I think the Packers have figured it out on offense slowly but surely as the season goes along, and I think they've improved. Yes, Bill, absolutely. I think having Christian Watson out there means so much to the team. So I think that's a big part of their more recent success as well. And they played some teams that aren't great. The competition last couple of weeks has not exactly been stiff. But look, if this season was 20 games long, 24 games long, I'd feel great about this team getting into the playoffs, because every other day they put a new piece of the puzzle together. It's just taking way too long. And I agree. If I was a Packers beat reporter, Bill, I would ask Matt LaFleur, why do you seemingly take so long to get to the correct decision, right? A lot of times they started the year with Jake Hansen and Royce Newman on the offensive line, Bill. Why did that take so long?
Yeah.
Right? Why did we keep running Amari Rodgers out there? Why do we do all these things? I want someone to ask Matt LaFleur that. And they asked him the other night about that thing that Troy Aikman said. He got a little testy. That was a little odd. But yeah, I'm with you. It takes too long for this team. And that's been a big problem, and it's probably cost them a win or two this year.
We were talking about that earlier with Mike Clemens about, they get testy behind the doors. Do you think that it's a professional football team, and it seems like there's so much that they get upset outside the walls of 1265. There's this thin skin. I don't know how else to put it, but Matt LaFleur, going back to when they were going over to London, certainly seemed to take offense to some questions. He took offense to a question about Joe Barry's defense, saying, really, I think I have to answer this after one game when it's been an entire season. My question is, I think they take their cues from their leader or leaders. Are the leaders too thin-skinned in Green Bay?
That's a great question, Bill. And I very much subscribe to the idea that, the players take on the voice of their leader and their leadership. And that's why during London week, I'm like, Matt, all you do is bitch about this trip. You were going to sour all of your guys on this trip. We saw this with the Brewers, right? Remember back in April and in May, Bill, when Craig Counsell kept talking about, man, we got another 3-city road trip. And then you started to hear the players talk about it. That stuff trickles down from the voice of the team, which with the Packers is LaFleur and Rodgers. And I think that stuff matters. I don't know if it's a thin skin, although I think the quarterback is fairly thin-skinned, so that might be a part of it. I don't know. I just think I don't know. The questions have been harder for Matt LaFleur this year. I don't know if he's more thin-skinned than he has been the last few years. I think he's had to answer to a lot more criticism, and I'm sure that impacts how the press conferences felt and the vibe around some of the questions. They've been harsher questions, so I think that elicits a harsher answer. But I'm with you. I think the quarterback certainly is thin-skinned, and that leads to some awkward interactions, and I think that trickles down to the rest of the team. Absolutely.
Defensively speaking, very few missed tackles on Monday night. It looked like a more aggressive defense. I'm not saying that's the way they're going to play, and obviously they were playing consistently against a rather poor offense in the LA Rams, but they did pressure them and sack them 5 times, pressure 9+ times. Give me your thoughts on the defense, the progress, and what you're seeing, and if this defense, I'm not going to say plays like that, but has just enough to sustain, how much better do you think this defense really is?
Well, it sucks not having Rashawn Gary, Bill. Like that puts a ceiling on this team. Without that elite piece up front to get after the quarterback. I mean, look at the difference Von Miller made for the Bills this year. And I'm not comparing Rashawn Gary to Von Miller. That's not what I'm saying. But having that player who can get to the quarterback in a big moment and force a fumble or force a huge sack and really impact the game. The Packers really don't have that guy. Preston Smith can get to the quarterback, and anything Barrios looks nice. But Rashawn Gary was the game breaker. And without him, they really have a ceiling. Now, unless Jair Alexander starts getting his hands on all sorts of footballs and starts, creating turnovers, or Quay Walker starts peanut punching a bunch of balls out and forcing turnovers, they really don't have big playmakers that can flip possessions and get the offense off of the field. I'm with you, though. I want this defense to play aggressive. If you get burned deep so well, it's better than getting paper cut to death over the course of a game. So if I'm going to go down, I want to go down swinging. I still think, like you said, you asked how good this defense could be. I still think there's a ceiling on this defense without Rashawn Gary. And that's a bummer. Joe Barry's got to find a way to coach through that and try to find a way to create flash plays and negative plays and force turnovers without Gary. That's the job of a defensive coordinator. But that job is really hard. And like I said, I think this defense has a hard cap and a ceiling without Rashawn Gary up front.
Good stuff as always, Grant. Appreciate it. And do you have the Packers winning this weekend or not?
No, because Raheem Mostert, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, any one of them can wreck a game, and this Packers defense loves to be wrecked, to put it plainly. So I don't trust Barry to keep all 3 of those guys in check. So for that reason, I wouldn't pick the Packers. I'm not saying they couldn't win. I do think something weird's going to go down in this game, Bill. You've watched enough sports in your life. You've watched way more than me. Packers at Miami, Christmas Day at noon. Something weird's going down. A fake spike, a weird special teams play, an onside kick, a fake punt. Something weird is going to happen in this game. But no, I would not pick the Packers if I had to.
Good stuff as always, Bud. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, Bill. Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, you too. There you go. That's our buddy Grant Bills, the Wisco Sports Show. You can get him at Wisco Grant over on Twitter, at Wisco Grant. Maybe there's some kind of a weirdness to this game because it's on Christmas Day. Who knows? Maybe it falls in favor of the Green Bay Packers. We are broadcasting live. We're at DJ's Goalpost. We're out here in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Road. If you want to swing by and say hi, there's still plenty of time to do so. They're doing some Bud Light specials that they're running tonight. They're giving away tchotchkes. As a matter of fact, they just gave away a bunch of shirts, koozies, hats, all kinds of good stuff. Some NFL hats that were out here tonight as well. So you still have time to come by. The snow is really not, just kind of looking out the window behind me. It's not too bad out. Not much going on, as a matter of fact. Kind of quiet. So swing on by and say hi. We are broadcasting again live out here at DJ's Goalpost in Menomonee Falls. We'll be back right after this.
This is The Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to the program. We are glad to have you. The Bill Michaels Show. We continue on. It's the Huddle. We are live out here. We're at DJ's Goalpost. We're in Menomonee Falls. For those of you listening around the rest of the state of Wisconsin on all of our network affiliates and on the Zone app out of Madison and watching on the Bud Light live stream, we certainly appreciate you hanging out with us. Coming up here, bottom of the hour, going to be talking with our producer, Ben, as we get into the discussion of the rest of the NFL. We start to take a look around the rest of the NFL and start picking games that begin tomorrow night or on Christmas Eve, and then obviously are on Christmas Day as well. One of the things that was that was interesting, and we were talking about the Packers and the fact that over the last 5 weeks, they're averaging 26.6 points per game, and which is one of the tops in the NFL. As a matter of fact, I think it's top 6, top 7. We were talking about that earlier today. But Aaron Rodgers talked about the offense, the need to score points, the need to average above that per game. The question is, if they can get to, say, 27, 28 points per game on average, if this offense is capable of that against better teams, can the Packers win consistently? Do they have enough? We have seen what, Minnesota can do to a bad defense or a defense that decides not to cover or give them, death by 1,000 cuts. We have seen what Detroit can do, defensively speaking. They're solid, but when you think about it, the Packers really should have won that game in Detroit. It was not one, not two, but 3 different picks in the red zone. One was a deep pass that ended up in the red zone, and the other 2 were red zone picks by Aaron Rodgers, which was an uncharacteristic game for him. And we've seen Miami where they've played really, really well, and then they've struggled. Now they're coming off of yet another hard-fought loss, but it was a loss. They've lost, 3 in a row, in their last one against Buffalo in the cold, in somewhat of the flurries that were the other night, on Sunday night or Saturday night, excuse me. So do we look at this and say, maybe they're getting Miami at the right time? If you can get up early on the Vikings, especially at Lambeau Field in the cold, can you put the Vikings away? Can you work them into enough mistakes? And we saw what Kirk Cousins did to a rather poor, Indianapolis Colts defense. Their defense is not great, or not terrible, but they're not great by any stretch of the imagination. Can you get a couple of picks? Can you get a couple of stops? And then obviously, against Detroit, could they do enough to win? The question is, why not? And again, I think I'd be remiss if I sat here today and said I had this load of optimism that they're going to be able to do it, because I was somebody that declared probably 3-4 weeks ago, even after that Detroit game, that's it. Packers are done. They played about as poorly as they could play. They've played better football since then, but they haven't won consistently since then. And the last two teams, for everybody that's pointing it out, the last two teams they've beaten don't have many wins. They're sub 500 teams, and they're rather poor at best. So how good are the Packers? Well, we're going to find out on Sunday. But I asked the question earlier, do you become a believer if the Packers do pull off a victory? And the funny thing is, the question began to resonate with people on Twitter and emails and such, and said, yeah, if they win in Miami, then I'll be back on the Packers. Maybe they can do it bandwagon. But there's a lot of people betting people that don't believe the Packers are going to be able to pull off the upset down there. The other thing we were talking about with Grant Bills was, Keyshawn Nixon. And Keyshawn Nixon, I'm not going to say he came out of nowhere. They knew what they had. They just didn't use him. And then when they finally gave him the opportunity after Amari Rodgers is cut loose, then he went, oh, here's what I can do. And I know that Matt LaFleur had said something to the effect of, he was asked, boy, you had Keyshawn Nixon on your roster all this time. How come you didn't use him? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And I'm thinking to myself the whole time, how did you not know? How do you not know that this guy was that good when you were scrambling for anybody? It's not like Amari Rodgers was really good and he just wasn't going to allow anybody else on the field. How did you not know that Keyshawn Nixon had this ability in him and to be this good? It makes you question. It makes you question leadership, I guess, and the ability to evaluate talent. And you kind of wonder, on this team, what do they believe in that is inept, and what do they not believe in that is actually pretty good? It's a little disconcerting, and I understand that Matt LaFleur and Brady Gutekunst and everybody's a little testy right now, and rightfully so. But I think some of these questions are legit. There's been times this season that this team, and coaching staff wise and or talent evaluation wise, has looked kind of foolish, and they don't like being questioned. But I'm sorry, okay, when you're not completely honest and you're forthcoming, you can get the follow-up questions. Rodgers doesn't like to be questioned, but go all the way back to the immunization thing where he led people down a primrose path. Well, damn it, now you're going to be questioned. Had you not done that to begin with, and there was this give and take of trust, well, so be it. But I think that's an honest evaluation of reporting and or being the eyes and ears of the fan, and for what we see on the field. I know we're not all as smart as NFL coaches and quarterbacks, but sometimes when you look at it and it's a turd, it's actually a turd. And you don't need to explain it to me that it's something that it's not, because we can see it doesn't work and it's a turd. That being said, let's do this. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break. We're going to come back. Going to get into the rest of the NFL and start making our picks around the rest of the NFL. Ben Kenny's going to join me, and we'll start going through all the matchups this coming weekend. Tomorrow night, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. Obviously, we'll get into all of that, and we'll talk a little bit of spreads as well. We're brought to you by our friends at Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the Bill Michaels Sports Talk Network, and they bring you the Bill Michaels Huddle. We are live out here. We're at DJ's Goalpost. We are in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Avenue. Come on by and say hi. They're still giving away T-shirts, hats, all kinds of good stuff. Come on by, get yourself a buy one, get one, and all that kind of good stuff on Bud Lights as well. We'll be back right after this.
This is the Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 5 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 4 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute.
What's going on? Nothing. Just
Bill
doing my
Michaels
thing.
will resume in 30 seconds.
Broadcasting live, we're at DJ's Goalpost here in Menomonee Falls. Ben Kenny, we'll bring Ben Kenny in as we start to look around the rest of the NFL and talk about some of the spreads and some of the games and such coming up this weekend. Ben, we got a game on Thursday night, and Vegas has to know something because the Jets are only a 1.5 favorite in this thing. Jaguars come in with a full head of steam. Trevor Lawrence, 24 touchdowns on the season. Does Trevor Lawrence get any love? If the Jacksonville Jaguars actually make it into the postseason, does he get any love, at least as a runner-up or maybe a distant third for MVP if he keeps them on track?
I don't think he should necessarily. The start of the year was not good, but entering next year, no doubt, his name will be in there. and he's playing crazy good football. Like that offense has been on his back. He beats Dallas, and the division stinks, and Tannehill with the Titans is done for the year. So it looks like they actually could. They have an inside track at the playoffs. It is kind of a weird line with the Jets being favored with Zach Wilson starting. It doesn't go well ever.
Jaguars on the road taking on the Jets. Do you pick the Jets at home or the Jaguars with the head of steam on the road?
I have picked the Jaguars pretty much every single week we have done this. I will pick them again.
I hate to do it, but I think the Jets are actually going to win this game. Jets are going to go to 8-7 on the season. As much as I want to see Doug Peterson continue to do well in Jacksonville, I just think that the Jets' defensive front is solid. They've been playing some decent football. I think Saleh has them heading in the right direction. I think the Jets at home tomorrow night on Prime Video, which and this is actually not a bad game. At least, we've seen some of these games on Prime Video. They're just like fillers. They're terrible. And this year, I don't think they expected this Thursday night Prime game between Jacksonville and the New York Jets to be anything to write home about. And this thing actually has playoff implications. So finally, you get another good one for Al Michaels and Kirk Herbstreit on Prime Video on a Thursday night. So I'm fired up about that. You got the Bears and
Bill,
go ahead.
One final note on that game, quick. The Philadelphia Eagles staff sent cheesesteaks to Doug Peterson and the Jaguars, excuse me, for beating the Cowboys last week.
Did they
so
really?
You wonder how motivated they're going to be after a hangover from eating cheesesteaks.
It's not about the hangover of being drunk on cheesesteaks. It's about the colon that is full of cheese. A little blocked up playing on Sunday, or playing on Thursday. So it takes a while for those to pass. I know I've been there. You got the noon kickoff time on Saturday on Christmas Eve day. Buffalo is favored by 6.5 on the road, though, in Chicago. It's going to be cold Saturday morning. We don't know what kind of a hangover there's going to be left over from this. But it is going to be an extremely windy day. I'm going to say the Bears cover. It's going to be the Buffalo wins, but the Bears. By the way, Buffalo favored by 8.5. I said 6.5, 8.5. I think the Bears cover in this one, but I'm going to pick Buffalo to get the win, with maybe by 5, maybe 7. But I think that's going to be the extent of it because you're not going to be able to really throw the football. It doesn't look like because of a really windy day at Soldier Field.
Bill, I have my weather app up because it could be the story of the weekend with the cold everywhere. We know in Chicago, it's going to be kind of similar to here. I'm seeing single-digit temperatures with a real feel in the negative 20s. Mm-hmm. So it could be like startlingly cold, not only just late season cold. I think the Bills win, and Fields can play well when he doesn't have to throw it and the weather's bad because of his athleticism. But I think the Bills are too good. The Bears' leading tackler, Jack Sanborn, went down last weekend against the Eagles. So wonder what that defense will be like without him. I think it could be close just because it'll be freezing. But the Bills are used to that. They play in Buffalo. So I think they can win it easily.
You got the Giants. They're on the road in Minnesota. No weather affecting this game at U.S. Bank Stadium. Minnesota favored by 4. The Giants coming off of a big victory over Washington, which just a few weeks ago they ended up tying with them. And the Vikings coming off of that incredible comeback and the Vikings believe now it doesn't matter. There's no deficit that's too big for them. They can come back and get the job done. They're favored by 4. I am going to take because I would like to see the Giants lose the last 3, and I like to see Washington lose the next couple as well. But I'm going to take the Vikings at home to get the win. I don't think the Vikings. Maybe I don't think the Vikings cover. I think it's a close one. But I think the Vikings win at home and they knock off the Giants.
Yeah, Bill, their team is pretty well suited for the indoors, right? Like we always see Dalvin Cook scampering around on the turf and Jefferson going crazy. I think the Vikings win this one. I'm not all the way in on them as a contender, but after last week, you got to think the energy carries over. And yeah, it's good for the Packers.
You've got another noon contest coming up on Saturday in New England where the weather, again, is going to be rather brisk. You've got Cincinnati on the road taking on the Patriots. Cincinnati favored by 3 in this one. They need it. They have the top spot in the division. But, you don't forget, you've also got the Baltimore Ravens breathing down their neck. They've got to stay on top. They've got to stay high. Joe Burrow's been hot. They got to have pretty much everybody back health-wise. I'm going to take Cincinnati on the road to get the win by 4+.
I'm with you on that one. The end of the game on Sunday, those things I don't think will carry over very well to the next week. The Bengals are playing terrific football. I think Belichick is going to have to look inward and maybe change some things up around the organization, definitely quarterback wise, but also maybe game plan wise. What they're doing has just not been working. They've won some games because they're solid, like the Patriots always are, but maybe some institutional changes, coaching wise, offensive scheme wise, coming in the offseason. I do think the Bengals win easily.
Break up the Lions. They're on a roll. Now they're favored on the road by 2.5 over the Carolina Panthers. Jared Goff, 23 touchdowns. Jamal Williams, 14 plunging into the end zone. And Anwa St. Brown, he's got 6 of his own, and he's closing in on a 1,000-yard season. I got the Lions beating the Panthers, beating the spread as well. And the Lions get the win, and they go to 8-7 on the season. Dare I say 8-7?
It is right. Break them up. It's looking like a single digits game, but you know Dan Campbell can get his boys ready for some cold weather. So I'm with you.
You've got the Saints and the Browns. It's in Cleveland. Weather's going to be terrible. Cleveland is actually favored by 2.5 in this one, and between these two teams, they've used quarterbacks all over the place. And this one is going to be just ugly. I don't really have much of a rooting interest in this at all, other than the fact that I'm going to pick it. But the Saints are coming north. They play in a dome, and they play in the south. They're coming north and playing just horrific weather in Cleveland. I'm going to take the Browns at home with the run game to get the win. And their defense, I think, is flat out better, too.
Yeah, I mean, the totals on these games look across 32.5 is crazy low. And it could snow there as well. Even the Vikings one is quite high. You look at the Titans game we'll talk about, that's in the 30s. They are forecasting a rough offensive weekend. And yeah, I think the Browns defense is better. I need the Saints to keep losing, so I will take the Browns as well.
You mentioned the Tennessee Titans taking on the Texans. The Texans in Tennessee, where it's going to be 25 degrees with a wind chill that's going to put it right about 17. The wind will be brisk. The Titans coming into this game, three-point favorites. And over and under, when you get into that, 35.5 in this game. Both teams are going to try to run the ball. I just think the Titans are too much. They're too good. Derrick Henry's too good. The Tennessee Titans are not a good football team by any stretch of the imagination. So I'm going to take Tennessee at home, not only to get the win, but to cover.
I think it'll be close. And it's only a 3-point spread. Without Tannehill, the Titans just cannot throw the ball. Malik Willis is not really there yet, not ready. And the Texans have been risky. They almost beat the Cowboys, and they took the Chiefs to overtime. So I'm going to pick an upset. Texans on the road to open the door for Doug Peterson to win the division.
Patrick Mahomes, 35 touchdowns on the season. The Chiefs, 11-3, they are at home, and they are 10-point favorites. The Seahawks come to town at 7-7, and they're still trying to cling to some type of playoff life. But if they lose, that is one of the dominoes that needs to fall for the Green Bay Packers to get the win. I said all along that the Seahawks weren't going to win this game. I think it'll be closer than maybe that 10-point spread, but it is supposed to be 15 degrees at Arrowhead with a wind chill right around 0. I'm going to say the Chiefs get the win going away. But it is going to be one of those lower scoring affairs. I don't think it's going to be breaking. If I'm going to have to take the over and under, I'm taking the under. I'm not going to 49 on this. I'll probably go to maybe 42, 41, something like that. I think it's going to be a lower scoring affair, but I think the Chiefs do get the win, and they get their 12th one of the season. And that loss for Seattle then opens one of the dominoes that needs to fall for the Green Bay Packers to get themselves yet another win and only have to climb one more team after that to get into the postseason. So I got the Chiefs winning.
Oh, it feels like a shootout to me, where the Seahawks get down, Geno Smith starts to cook. Like, the Chiefs' defense isn't that good. We've seen shootouts with them before.
Yeah.
And I definitely think they could score at will on the Seahawks. Bill, I think my weather app is gaslighting me right now because it tells me 4 degrees with a wind chill of -22. Now, it could just, the settings could be off given what it's like here. I don't know. I don't know what the inputs are. Yeah. I actually just clicked on the AccuWeather button and then scrolled down.
Okay.
So, yes, it's going to be cold, but I think the Chiefs win easily.
There you go. When we come back, we'll roll through the rest of the lineup. We'll get into the rest of the Saturday games, The Sunday games, you got a Saturday night game as well between the Raiders and the Steelers, and that was supposed to be the Franco Harris welcome back game, the 50th anniversary celebration of the Immaculate Reception, and instead, there's a quick moment of silence and the announcement of the passing of Franco Harris at the age of 72. What a sad turn of events. And here's something else to think about when you talk about the three beats of statistical deaths. You just had Tom Brown against the Cincinnati Reds, threw the only perfect game in franchise history. He passed a couple of days ago. Franco Harris passed, and Pele has now been in the hospital as his cancer continues to worsen, and they do not expect him to as well. But sad note, greats all for sure. Now, Tom Browning's obviously not in the Hall of Fame, but he did throw a perfect game in Cincinnati. Let's do this. We're going to step away. We're going to take a quick break. We'll come back. Second half of the schedule, including the Green Bay Packers on Christmas Day in Miami. Stay tuned. We got a whole lot more of the Bill Michaels Huddle wrapping things up here at DJ's Goalpost. Menomonee Falls and Appleton Avenue coming up right after this.
This is a Huddle with Bill Michaels on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Network.
Bill Michaels will resume in 3 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 2 minutes. Bill Michaels will resume in 1 minute. Bill Michaels will resume in 30 seconds.
Welcome back. Glad to have you. The Bill Michaels Center. We're broadcasting live. We're at DJ's Goalpost. We're out here in Menomonee Falls on Appleton Avenue. Another segment to go before we get out of here, and still people coming in, enjoying the evening as the snow has really not started to fly too much as of yet. Going through the rest of the games for the matchups for this coming weekend. A noon game on Saturday as well. The Falcons are on the road taking on the Ravens. The Ravens have fallen off. They're out of the top spot in the AFC North as the Bengals have taken it over. The Ravens trying to look to get back on track. The Falcons coming into town. Baltimore favored by 7. The weather's going to be cold again in Baltimore, as it will be throughout most of the country, the upper portion of the country anyway. Got the Ravens at home getting this one, but Lamar Jackson, man, without him on the field, this team is nowhere near the same football team, that's for sure.
I have the Ravens as well. Desmond Ridder, I was excited for the debut last week, and he was okay. I had some moments, but not really. Yeah, no consistency there. And the offense didn't work any better than it was. Probably worse than it was under Mariota. And the Ravens defense is, fine, playing well. I think they win this game easily. A lot left to play for there.
Big one coming up out in San Fran. It's a 3:05 kickoff on Saturday. San Francisco, the 49ers at 10-4. Brock Purdy is the man, and he is going to be taking on Taylor Heineke and the Washington Commanders. The Commanders trying to hang on and get themselves into the postseason. Meanwhile, the 49ers, they've got a nice lead out there in the West. I just think the 49ers too much at home. That defense is too much against Heineke and company. I think the Washington Commanders lose. So we got Seattle losing, which basically that would eliminate them if the Packers were to win out, because the Packers would overtake them. And the second of 3 losses will take place for the Commanders. They lose this one. San Francisco is favored by 7. I think the 49ers win and cover and get the win, knocking off the Commanders.
It is not going to be cold in San Francisco,
That's
contrary
like 60,
to popular belief.
55, 60?
Yeah. I think this is the only game the Niners will play throughout the rest of the season where I would rather have Brock Purdy over the quarterback they're facing in Taylor Heineke. The Commanders, I like their team. I just, on the road against that defense, Heineke will not be able to throw for much, I don't think. And then Purdy can just hand the ball off 35 times. So whether they cover or not, I think the Niners definitely win.
The big one on Saturday afternoon is the Cowboys are at home. They're 5-point favorites in this one, and question marks remain as to whether or not Jalen Hurts, an MVP candidate, is going to even be able to go with a bum right throwing shoulder. The Eagles come in, obviously the top spot in the division. They don't have to win this game. They're trying to hang on to the top spot overall, the number 1 seed in the NFC. If Jalen Hurts does not play, I think the Cowboys win. I don't want to say going away, but they win this game easier. If Jalen Hurts does play, I can't imagine him taking off and running too much. And the Cowboys are going to know that. Micah Parsons is going to be trying to feast on him. And don't forget, this is the Jalen Hurts. It's not all about him. Micah Parsons had some things to say. Eagles are going to come in loaded. But I think as long as Dak doesn't make a ton of mistakes, I think the Cowboys get the win. If Hurts plays and he plays well, then I would say the Eagles get the win by maybe 5-7. But the way things stand right now, I kind of think there's no urgent reason for Jalen Hurts to come in and play in this game. So, therefore, I take the Cowboys by a slim margin.
I think the Eagles win this game, Bill, no matter who's under center.
Really? Okay.
They know a thing or two about getting a backup in there and still winning games, finding ways to win games, no matter how well the backup plays, as we saw 5 years ago. I don't know. There's a flu bug running through the Cowboys building. Micah Parsons hasn't practiced all week. The team is doing a lot of talking, not a lot of winning. And the Eagles really just need either one win or one Cowboys loss over 3 games to clinch the 1 seed. I think it comes on Christmas Eve. And like Jeff Garcia did in 2007, Gardner Minshew walking off the field says, "Merry Christmas, Philadelphia."
Then the night game coming
2006.
up. There you go. Sorry. The night game coming up on Saturday night, as I had mentioned. The Steelers, what was supposed to be the celebration of the Immaculate Reception with Franco Harris on the field, now is going to be a moment of silence since Franco passed. Steelers at home. They're hosting the Raiders. Devontae Adams gets a nod to the, quote, Pro Bowl, by the way. But the Pittsburgh is a 2.5-point favorite in this one. The Raiders have played better as of late. I still don't have a lot of belief in them. It's going to be an emotional night in Pittsburgh. For whatever reason, those emotional nights, there's not a sense that they go well for the home team. I'm going to say the Raiders actually on the road get this one. It's going to be a really cold night, by the way, in Pittsburgh. It's going to be right around 0 as far as actual temperature, and probably about 10 below in feels like temperature. But I'm going to still say the Raiders get the win in this one. I just think that the Raiders have some weapons that can get over the top on the Steelers.
I think the Steelers win. I would have picked them anyway, but especially with the news of Franco Harris passing away, I don't know. Just teams after things like that happen, I feel like win more than not. So I will take the Steelers.
Got an ugly one. Rams at home taking on the Broncos. We see the Rams stink, but I think they have a little more mojo than the Broncos do. I'll take the Rams at home to win that one with Baker Mayfield under center.
Yeah, sure. As well. I'm not going to watch that.
Cardinals are at home, and they're taking on the Buccaneers, who are trying to hang on to the NFC South. The Cardinals got beat last week. They've lost now 2 in a row. A couple of weeks ago, they got completely just obliterated by the 49ers. Cardinals stink. I'm going to take this is a bounce-back game for Tom Brady. They get the win on the road in Arizona.
I'm trying to tie some Dabo Sweeney, our program is made of NIL, God's NIL, into this, it being on Christmas and all that, but I couldn't. I think the Bucs win. I think it's close, though. They look really bad, Bill. Like, really bad.
They really do. They look slow, too. The Colts are at home after blowing a 33-point lead to the Vikings, taking on the Chargers. No way in hell. Their season's over. Saturday's done. I take the Chargers on Monday night to beat the Colts.
I am picking the Colts. Nick Foles.
That's all. There you go. And then the Dolphins. They are at home against the Packers come Sunday. Miami is 4-point favorites, about 60, some rain in the forecast. It's more Packers weather than it is Dolphins weather. Packers are starting to do a few good things. I just the speed on the outside, the wide receiver position, and Tua playing well bothers me. Maybe this is where the Packers' hopes get dashed, and the Packers fall to Miami by we'll say that 4-point margin, 3-point margin, something like that. I'm picking the Dolphins.
I'm with you, 35-32. I think Rodgers balls out. I think Christian Watson's great. I think Dobbs is great. The offense is terrific, but I just can't trust the defense to stop what the Dolphins can do.
That's it. That'll do it. Thanks to everybody who came out tonight at DJ's Goalpost. Man, what a fun time. What a fun place. It's a tremendous sports bar. It's huge. So if you get a chance, come on out and spend some time out here. Maybe catch the game out here or games out here, as many of you have decided to do tonight, watching the Bucs and the Cavaliers. So for everybody involved, whether it's out here on site, Ben Kenny pushing all the right buttons, thanks to Mike Clements, thanks to Grant Bills of the Wisco Sports Show as well. Thanks to all of you for paying attention to us